Hey now, welcome to the Dirty Side of the Track, America's leading Formula One podcast. I'm Brian, that's Rob. We are so excited because in 1 week it's Canada. Oh boy, Rob, tell me how excited you are on a scale of 1 to 100.
Oh, okay, that's a big scale. Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever you gave me is the upper boundary. I'm that. So 100. So
Oh, that's
just
low. I'm 4,762.
you can't be if you give a boundary, Brian. Come on. But I can't believe it. We were just saying before we came on air. It's like 1 week today. We'll be waiting for the race to. It may have even begun. If it begins at 3 Eastern, then literally we're 5 minutes into the race right now. I can't get my head around that. That we're going to be sat there watching
I
real
can't
F1
either.
cars go past.
I can't
Yeah,
either.
I mean,
I'm oh,
got to hit the elephant in the room a little bit, and I got no way of saying this without sounding like the biggest, most selfish schmuck on the world. But I'm willing to take this. Is that obviously earlier in the week, anyone watching will have seen all the smoke impacting the US. Nobody will have seen pictures of Connecticut because no one cares about Connecticut. But you probably saw the New York kind of apocalyptic haze from all the wildfires. And there was stories going around that the Canadian GP could be at risk after we lost Imola to flooding. Then will we lose the Canadian one to smoke? And I was like, I know that the fires will not have a chance of being out by next week because they're out of control in the areas they're burning. But I know that they were trying to use any resources they could from preventing them spreading towards densely populated areas. So I'm kind of like, I know there's a whole bunch of people going through a whole bunch of pain with lots and lots of fire and smoke going on at the moment. Please don't let them cancel the race. And I know how selfish that sounds, and I apologize deeply, profusely, but I'm so excited. I
yeah,
can't wait
what a
for it. I
jerk you are.
absolutely,
I never
I
thought
know.
that at all. I didn't
I,
think that for a minute, you big jerk.
but yeah, I mean,
I mean, did I send you a
it's.
bunch of WhatsApps freaking out, like talking about the weather patterns and what was going to happen? And
Have we both been on satellite watches looking at smoke patterns in the upper atmosphere?
yeah, I'm now a licensed expert from satellite weather pattern technology recognition. Oh,
But yeah, so yeah, like you say, Thursday night, it's going to be like Christmas again for me anyway. I'm not going to sleep, I don't think, because Friday morning I'm going to be up road tripping my way up to Montreal to meet you at the airport potentially, and then head over to the track.
yeah.
It's
I'd like to just say one thing now. We do have some news and some social stuff to hit here, and we will give a Canada preview, but just I'd like to acknowledge one thing as well. Today and next week, especially our Canada review, is going to be incredibly self indulgent. So just apologies in that regard as well. You've hopefully listened to other episodes and heard that we are doing our best from a fan's perspective to talk about F1, but this one is really fans going to a race for the first time, freaking out. But all right, let's do some news, Rob. What do you say?
Yeah, let's get on with it. Let's try and stick to the format as much as possible without mentioning Canada too many times, but we just did it already. Okay, so James Key is set to join Alfa Romeo Sauber as technical director after just being thrown out of McLaren for doing exactly the same role. I think you found a kind of a tweet from Lawrence Barretto on this that kind of I was glad you found this because it was basically summing up the fact that he must be good at his job, despite the fact he's basically got kicked out. You wouldn't give him the role if he wasn't. A lot of people talk highly of him, even if that McLaren
Right.
isn't the best thing in the
Yeah.
world right
Well,
now.
he'd had a very successful stint with Sauber previously, and with Andrea Seidel there, thinks it strengthens the operation ahead of Audi's arrival in 26. So to Lawrence, it was a move that made sense. So it was good to see that kind of perspective. But yeah, good on Alfa Romeo. And then I saw an article from a journal that did not translate to English, so I was doing my best to read this in a language I'm not even sure what it was, but the headline is, and again, I this one very well could be straight over the rumor mill, so we'll get a little bit of Formula One says that starting in 2024, Spa and Zandvoort will alternate years going forward. God, I hope that's fake. I hope that doesn't come to fruition.
Okay, I do and I don't because can we have our cake and eat it? Me and you have both said that you can't just keep adding races to the calendar. There has to
Right.
be like even
Agreed.
24 just feels too many, right?
Yeah, yeah.
However, there's way more than 24 racetracks that probably we want to see cars going around. So do we have to get to a point where it becomes a rota, a kind of a 1 year on, 1 year off for some of the tracks? But there's this little asterisk against that. But I think we all want to kind of go, yeah, yeah, yeah. You can have 1 year on, 1 year off apart from these that we'd really like to see
Right.
every
The ones
year.
that are protected. When we talked about how we'd fix F1, we had certain tracks that we said were untouchable. Spa is untouchable. I'm sorry.
It
Just,
is, and I know that sounds hypocritical that we want to keep certain ones and
no.
rotate the others, but
I mean, we're both
whatever.
parents. We have favorite kids.
Ooh.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
Oh man. I saw as well that Charles Leclerc auctioned off the helmet that he wore at the Monaco Grand Prix, and it sold. Well, it says it sold for a record. Now I can't believe it's a record of any auction ever. It must be a record of F1 helmets being sold. It's got to be right.
I mean, maybe.
Um,
I
and they
would
went,
think
well,
Shumi might have had some helmets recently
I
that
don't know. I mean,
I
I,
don't
I
know.
didn't dig into the record itself, but it's 306,000 euros, which is 262,700 pounds, which what 1.4 exchange rate is like knocking on the door of $300,000, I think. So quite a lot, and it's all getting donated to flood victims in
That's
Italy,
great.
which is a nice touch.
That is
So
great, especially when people like you don't care about them. You just want the races.
flooding, I'm fine with. I'm all for that smoke. We just wear a mask.
Oh man.
And then Susie Wolf, she's heading up the F1 Academy, the women's series, but they're also looking to spearhead a new kind of initiative to get younger women and girls getting into the sport. So they're going to be launching a campaign aimed at giving 8 to 12-year-old girls a sort of first step into the motorsport ladder, which I think is perfect because
That's so cool.
it is, because if you just launch the like there was a clip going around on Twitter earlier this week of, and this won't mean anything to you, Brian, but there was a kind of a magazine show when I was a kid on TV called Blue Peter, where they got just stupid. I just don't even worry about it. But anyway, it
I
was a
won't.
radio controlled race car track with all these little radio controlled cars, RC cars going around. And who was the winner on that episode of controlling his little car as like a dinky little 7-year-old? Lewis Hamilton. So kids getting into motorsport at a young age kind of have those kind of that kind of footpath ahead of them, especially if they're males, right? Whereas here we go with F1 Academy to give women a shot in. It needs something like this to then any little girl that looks up to one of the F1 Academy races says, "Oh, I wonder how I get into that." If they
Right.
can create this kind of initiative to bring them in as well, that'll be awesome.
I totally agree. Can I shift gears for 1 second, but stay on the idea of women in motorsport? Le Mans. So I know you're not a 24 hours of Le Mans guy, right? Is that vaguely, loosely? You haven't been
It's
bitten by
pretty
the bug
accurate
yet.
to say I haven't been bitten by the bug. I've
Okay.
tried it many many years down the along the way, and I just didn't bother this year because I just don't get it. I know it's brilliant and loads of people love it. It's just it doesn't float my boat. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah. So, well, I'll leave you at that. And then I'll say I've tried it before as well, and it never really stuck. And I don't know why. I watched this enthralled. It was an epic motorsport event. The amount of drama and battles at the front and at the middles of the packs of the different cars, the categories, I loved it. And then the rain came, and then the nightfall came, and then it rained at night. And there were, Rob, I could not have enjoyed this anymore. I stayed up, I watched it. And the reason I highlight this is I liked it very quickly. And I know, so everyone who saw any tweets from our account about Le Mans, it was me. I just got to highlight. So first of all, in the hypercar division, big ups to Ferrari. The AF Corsa, it was Pierre Guidi, James Calado, and Antonio Giovinazzi, Italian Jesus, Racing Jesus. He did it. He has no hair though. He has like short hair now. I didn't even recognize him. They won, which is amazing. And then Toyota with their Gazoo Racing came in second. A couple guys, Sebastian Buemi and Brandon Hartley, and then Hirakawa. But Brandon Hartley, I mean, also not the same hair as he used to have, if we remember. And then Caddy came in. You and I have talked about Caddies, hypercars in the past on this here podcast as a reason that they actually have like a racing pedigree. They came in third, which was amazing. And there was chaos. Even the number 2 car, which was their car that finished third, ended up doing donuts on the track by accident in the rain. The LMP2 podium, not much I would say. It was not as exciting, the LMP2 race for them, but Kubica finished second. It was on the team that finished second. And I think it was all
Is
polls.
this you doing a quick roundup? You promised me a quick roundup of this,
And then
I said we
here's
could put
the
it on
reason
the
why
episode.
the LMGT cars. There was a team battling for first most of the night, and they were right up in there. And it was the Iron Dames. It was all women drivers, and they had a Porsche 911, and it was painted pink, and they were on it. Like I can't explain to you how great they were. They were in first for a good portion. They ended up finishing fourth. I didn't see the very end, so I don't know what bumped them from the podium positions. I was all in on cheering for the Iron Dames. They kept interviewing them. They were swearing like sailors on the interview, and they'd come back to the commentary box and instead of Crofty saying sorry about the fruity language, as he would say, they had an American guy who could not pronounce Peugeot. He called it Peugeot, basically.
Or Peugeot, because you can't pronounce it either.
Yeah, no, of course not. I'm American. We don't sell those things here. And so he's him and his Peugeots, and he's
Stop saying that.
No, that's how he said it. I don't say it that badly. It's close. But so anyway, the point is, I loved watching and cheering for these women who were so relatable because every time they interviewed them, I wanted them to do even better. And anyway, I'd love to see the Susie Wolf effort bring more women into motorsport early so that they have the talent pool to fill the academy and things like that. So it was just cool. Iron Dames, man, they
yeah. I mean,
awesome.
I didn't watch it, but I kept abreast of it. I was interested to see how people were getting on. I mean, the two things that caught my eye outside of the Iron Dames were, Ferrari shouldn't be sniffed at because not that I follow this sport that much, but to enter the race for the first time in however many years it is, and put together a car which is fast, reliable, and can last the entire 24 hours and win it, and win it is insane. Because normally you need to build up a bit of experience to a race like this and then come strong, like, enter for a couple of years and then win it in year 3. So hats off to Ferrari. That's amazing. I just wish I could cheer Leclerc winning in a Ferrari. But
he was there watching it, by the way.
Yeah, great. Probably taking notes on how to win in a Ferrari, maybe. But the other one was... who's the NASCAR team?
Yeah, the NASCAR. Oh, there's a NASCAR team. I forgot who it was, but Button was driving with them.
Button was driving it, and there was so much enthusiasm for just kind of showing that car could compete. I don't really understand all the series or the specs that they have in there, but that was in a spec of its own of like emerging technology or something.
Innovative category, Garage 56.
Seemed to hold up really well, and now they're all kind of saying like, is this now a thing that Ford will join in and NASCAR will start hiving off a bit of development into putting Le Mans cars in?
I couldn't get enough of the NASCAR, and Alanis King, who's a great follow on Twitter, an author, wrote the Haas book. She was there and she kept posting these videos like in the middle of the night of like everyone's falling asleep except every 4 minutes this goes by, and it's like you hear the race cars and then you hear the NASCAR go by, and so it was great. I loved watching the NASCAR too. And
well, that's a nice segue because
yes.
The thing that stood out about the NASCAR was its sheer size.
Gigantic.
It was massive compared to everything else. There was like a lot of
a
memes
bit,
going around
it was so
about
American.
Jenson Button, like, I'm not sure anyone's noticed me yet. And it was like their car in the middle of all these hypercars.
Twice as big as everybody else.
Oh my gosh. But that segue about size and weight,
yes.
George Russell is leading, there's a whole bunch of voices in the F1. They're lobbying the FIA to look at lowering the weight and maybe the size of the cars as part of the 2026 changes. So the engine specs are locked and loaded, but apparently the chassis stuff isn't yet. So it's kind of up for grabs that they're trying to lobby to do this. They've got heavier as years have gone by, mainly because things like the battery being included, the halo has added more weight, and they've just generally got bigger and heavier apparently in the spirit of safety. But Russell's there saying it's just getting stupid. We're going to hit a tipping point soon where like the cars are so big and so bulky that now if you crash into someone at 100 miles an hour, it's actually now less safe than if you crashed into somebody at 100 miles an hour in a smaller, lighter car, because these things are like buses when they're going around. And so, safety has come so far now, and these things are so strong. We've seen it from some of the awful accidents that people are walking away from, like when Schumacher's car snapped in half and all this kind of stuff, right? It's that I think there's a time now, because I saw an overhead comparison, and this just creeps up on you, right? They were showing the early 2000 Schumacher car, the 2008, 2009 sort of Brawn era, and now the current cars on the overhead. There's like almost a negligible difference in size between the early 2000s and the mid 2000s. Yes, they're a bit bigger. And then it fast forward to the 2022 onwards, and it's like, holy moly, they're like so big.
It would make racing at places like Monaco better. Shrink the car. As long as they keep people safe, it would be, it would 100%. Be tremendous. Agreed. All right, Video Vault, quickly, because I want to get to Canada. Now that we're talking about Canada. All right.
You want to get to Canada as in you're thinking about leaving now, or you mean you want to talk about Canada preview?
Is this United? Can I get on a flight now? Right. So I have 5 videos about Le Mans for Rob. No, just kidding. I'm joking. So, first off, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri play hide and seek on the McLaren channel, 7 minutes. This was fun. I don't know if you got a chance to watch it. It's like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
didn't like it?
Oh, no, right, I did. Oh my gosh, I'm really am turning into old man Rob at a
Yeah, you are.
startling.
If
I am
you
because.
if you
So I'm
complain
watching
about
this.
DRS the whole time in Canada, you ain't making it back to Connecticut, bro.
No, Oh, I've got a third T-shirt I haven't shown you. It's all about DRS. No, I haven't. But I was watching this. And I thought, oh, this is fun. But then I was thinking, back in the day when racers were racers and they were just finely tuned, all they thought about was racing. Live, sleep, eat, breathe, racing. Um,
Is that how
are these
James
lot all
Hunt
just
did it?
are these lot? Yeah, like James Hunt.
He
Even
was
like
out with women and
Mansell,
booze
Schumacher.
and
Yeah, I know, but it's just I don't know. I don't like to see them messing about too much, and this was just
oh,
stupid
this
playing
was
hide and
7 minutes
seek. And
for
you're like,
social
oh,
media for content. They got to make content, man.
I know they do. It's just like there's content and there's content, and this was just a
Oh
bit kind
man.
of like,
Well, so the non-curmudgeon amongst us thought it was all right. It would check it out. It was Lando's
I
hiding
can watch
spot.
my
Will be
kids
seven
play hide
minutes.
and seek. Why do I want to watch these guys play hide and seek? It's no different. It's just you happen to they're famous. That's it.
I mean, you can watch me drive up and down the street, but we're still going to Canada to watch other people drive up and down the street.
But that's different because they have skill and you don't. So there we go. Right.
But your
Next
kids
one.
are professional hide and seekers.
Oh,
Okay,
my kids are amazing hide and
the
seekers.
Haas AAA Pass Spanish Grand Prix. Do not watch this. It's on the Haas channel. It's 9 minutes. I watch these things so you don't have to. Is why I do this. It's just basically behind the scenes footage. There's 30 seconds of Nico talking to the camera. I saw it 5 hours after they launched it, and I was the 673rd viewer. Period. No,
Ooh,
no comma in there.
ouch.
672 people before me. There's a reason. Some of the behind the scenes stuff is actually quite good. This, no. And then one of our favorite things from last week, Sky Sports F1 had a 10-minute interview with Lando, and the headline was, "Have you ever mistaken sweat for rain?" And so
Brilliant.
it is only really one question towards the end. It's an interview as a whole, and then they get to George's sweating, and then they actually talk about with Lando how Lando was surprised that it happened at Spain and nowhere else, because at the other tracks it's actually hotter and humid, and it's more likely to happen where it's dripping out of your helmet on your face. But Lando had a great laugh with that. And then the last thing I had, just hitting some highlights. We always talk about Lollipop Man. I left him out this week. You're welcome to if you'd like. It's great videos as always. But one thing that I cannot go to bed on Sunday nights until I've seen the funniest tweets from the current race. And so P1, Matty P1, formerly of WTF1, he always did the memes, internet's best reactions. Yeah. Now it's called funniest tweets. If you guys aren't watching these things, you really should be. It's hilarious. He does a great job recapping it. It still uses the tweets to kind of talk about the race a little bit still. I love it. And a friend of ours on Twitter, John T's Corner, has been on twice in a row. And so we've given him some shout outs for making it 2 weeks in a row. He was quite proud. But anyway, those are my video vault ideas.
There we go. So next up is preview because it'll be race week next week. Where's the
I'm
race
so
again?
excited. For people on YouTube, my face is now bright red.
I was gonna say
out.
I was gonna try and downplay it and pretend where's the next race, but you've just literally blown up and squealed. So yes, Canada.
Canada.
Before we get into the self-indulgent part of what we're hoping to get up to
yes.
next week, then let's just do maybe a slightly extended version because we're slightly overexcited about Canada.
Yes.
We'll do a preview of the Canadian GP. So I went back and looked at how we previewed it last year, and then I went and dug around again to see if we'd missed stuff, and we missed quite a lot, actually, Brian.
Not a surprise.
Actually didn't. Yeah, not a surprise at all. I didn't realize that it hasn't always been held at the Gilles Villeneuve circuit. I knew it had gone through a name change, which we'll come to later, but I hadn't realized that it had actually been run for a number of years. Started off in 1961, and it alternated between Mosport Park and Mont-Tremblant. There we go. We'll give it a little bit of a French accent there at the end.
Yeah, we're in a lot of trouble next week.
Yeah.
If
I can
that's
speak
our
a little
best French accent,
but I can order a beer.
Yeah.
Well, I can order a beer.
Good.
I can ask where the library is. I can order a kilo of tomatoes, and I can tell people that the bird is in the tree. So I think we're absolutely sorted.
All right. I can ask. Okay, I won't even say what I can do in French. All right, keep going.
Okay, so there were significant safety concerns after the 77 GP, and they wanted to go
Right.
and move it over to, yeah, apparently there was like safety stuff. And they said, well, let's move it to Toronto. But looks like a lot of politics, a lot of failed efforts got involved. So they basically, in 77, went, well, we've got to move it somewhere else. We better scramble and do something quickly. And they pulled together a race on a man made island in the middle of the St. Lawrence Seaway that had been made famous for the Expo of 67. And they threw a racetrack around it and went, yeah, that'll do for next year. Then we'll work out the long term thing going forward. And so became the circuit Ile Notre Dame. Um, and that was built and finished in 1978. We've talked about other tracks where we've said like they cut ground or broke ground on like year X, and then like a couple of years later it was finished, and a year after it held its first race. I mean, this was kind of like 1978 done. Now, admittedly, that could have been January 1st to December 31st, who knows? But still, um, the first ever winner was Gilles Villeneuve. So they opened up the track, and the Canadian hero went and won the debut race.
I'm looking at you, Lance
Um,
Stroll. Let's get on it, man.
yeah, you think Lance is going to win that this year, do you?
No, but you might.
No, he might come third, being he's the third best driver. Anyway, um, and then after Gilles Villeneuve was
Oh,
killed in qualifying for the 1982 Spa race, they renamed the track after him. So it was really only the Circuit Notre Dame from 78 to 82, and then it became uh, Gilles Villeneuve track. And we've
sp-
had some spicy moments down the years. Do you want to take us through a couple of these, Brian?
sure. But before I do, I've been to Montreal a couple times. Have you ever been to the Notre Dame Basilica of Montreal, like the big cathedral thing?
No,
It's
I've been there once on business once, and it was snowing so hard that it was the first time in my life I've actually seen them bring garbage trucks, as I have to say over here, bringing those in and filling them up with snow and taking the snow off the streets because they'd run out of places to push the snow. So I was there for like 2 days, and that's all I
uh,
saw, just snow.
Well, if we have extra time, which we won't, we could go look at it, but we won't because we have other things to do. So, yeah, a couple of these. I'm actually going to go out of chronological order because I want to hit one first. Rob did a lot of these, and I'll let you do most of them. But there was one missing from here, and there are a lot of people who would be upset with you. In 2019, I think it was 9, it might have been 18, but I'm pretty sure it was 2019. Seb and Lewis got into a little back and forth, a tete-a-tete. I don't even think I said that right. And so they went back and forth about halfway into the race, if I remember right, maybe lap 40 or so. And Seb, Lewis is actually pressurizing him. He's getting close behind him, and Seb makes a mistake and has to cut across the grass corner. And I don't remember the turn number. I could point to it on a map. And so Lewis kind of comes around and says, I'm going to take him as Seb rejoins the track. And he has him. And Seb comes, it is an unsafe, return to the track. He comes flying across at a slower speed and pushes Lewis into the wall. Lewis backs out smartly so he doesn't get crashed into. Seb gets a 5-second time penalty. And Lewis stays right behind him for the rest of the race, finishes within 5 seconds of Seb. Seb crosses the line first. Lewis is named the winner. And when they get to park at the, Parc Ferme at the I can't think. I'm so excited. As they get ready to go up on the podium, Lewis is parked first, and Seb's car isn't there for reasons I can't remember at this point. And so he walks over and takes the podium markers and swaps 1 and 2 in one of the most famous Seb moves of all time. He takes the 2 and puts it in front of Lewis's car and puts 1 where his car would have been. And to me, that's like a pretty interesting, on track and then off track piece that I thought should have been on the list. So
I see. I always put in best moments, not most childish, petulant moments. So
it was a good
I
moment
love
racing
Seb,
on
but I
track.
love. Yeah, no, I'll give you the racing on track. The Seb, he didn't need to do that at the end.
No,
I
he
loved
didn't.
Seb, but that was just pointless, really. To be honest, that was proper kind of kid having a tantrum. I'm going to swap these round because then they'll give me the win. No, they won't.
I loved it.
Yes.
So go back in time. Hit some of the good ones.
Let's go back in time and we'll hit them chronologically. But some of these, you can jump in.
I will, of course.
So Gilles Villeneuve, we mentioned it. He won the first race, and rather than have the classic kind of magnum of champagne to spray over everyone, it was a magnum bottle of Labatt 50. He sprayed everyone with beer.
Love it.
Yes, they should be able to do that, right? You know how it's. I'm going to get this wrong now. Is it IndyCar that has the milk for the?
Yes, the Indy 500. It's milk.
Oof.
You can select what kind of milk.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. You can
2%
select
whole
what kind of milk you want to drink at the end.
skim
Maybe
milk.
each track should be allowed to select what they want, because really we just have Ferrari champagne everywhere, apart from the countries where you can't have alcohol. But
And then
maybe
you have
it
Rosewater.
should become a thing. But
You know what? That's fine with me.
Yeah, and then we talk at the moment about Verstappen disappearing off into the distance and winning by miles, and it really wasn't so much of a thing. But when Schumacher got his first win back in '94, and he's still person with the most victories at this track. He's won 7, but in '94 he absolutely put in a masterclass and finished 33 seconds ahead of Damon Hill in second. I mean, it was. I remember watching it. It was just an absolute every time everybody talks about like wanting to see all the best, and I know
Yeah.
nobody could ever do it, but wouldn't it be amazing to have a race where you could kind of like have Fangio, Jim Clark, Senna, Schumacher, Hamilton, Verstappen, all like in a same race?
That'd be tremendous. And by the way, just so you know, Lewis also has 7 wins there, but we're about to talk about him. So they both have 7 Canadian victories.
Yes, yeah. I'll let you do this one because this is almost a stat one.
It
This is
is a
almost should
stat.
have
And I
stat
didn't
stat
know this.
music.
You found it. Should we do it real fast? Should we do a
Yeah,
little?
do it.
All right, we'll get this theme right here. Sap Stats Canadian GP Preview Edition. So Jean Alesi joins a small group of drivers to win on their birthday in 1995 at Canada, but it was his one and only win in F1 as well. And for some reason, when I think of Jean Alesi, I think of him as a race car driver, but also as the guy who came out to Top Gear and got Jeremy fitted into the car when he did that little Lotus thing. And he took it around, and Jeremy enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed watching it. Jean Alesi is my private fitter for my car here, and so anyway, I did not know he won on his birthday in
Oh,
Canada.
and I didn't realize it was it's apparently a very small group. So maybe JP, if you're listening, that's a question of the day on the Discord channel at
Yes,
some point: is drivers to have won on their birthday. But also, I refuse to believe this stat because I was convinced Lacey had won more than
me
once.
too.
So, and every source I went to, I started off with the holy trinity of truth, which is obviously Wikipedia, because no one can edit that. And it's like it says race wins 1. I'm like, no, that can't be right. A couple of other places, race wins 1. I'm like, okay, guess he did, but.
I mean, there are some astounding stats. Alesi only winning one time is one of them. Martin Brundle never leading a lap. Yet he was a relatively successful driver.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things like that that are just kind of shocking when you look at them. But anyhow, in '07, Hamilton became the first black driver to ever win an F1 race, which is fantastic. 7 times, I already said 7 times in Canada. But the crash that happened there that day, and you put a link to the video, and I went and saw it and watched it. It was Kubica, who I just talked about in the LMP, finishing second at Le Mans. It was a horrendous crash. It's kind of on the way down to the hairpin, but right before you get to the hairpin, you're kind of straightening out and getting ready to attack the hairpin. It is a horrendous crash. His BMW Sauber, it first of all goes into the inside of the track, if you will, hits the concrete wall, and then starts cartwheeling and spinning and crosses the track and comes back across. And there's like no car left. And and Kubica, by the way, is for anyone who doesn't know, almost lost his life in a rally crash, which totally derailed his F1 career, which was a sparkling F1 career. He's set to sign with Ferrari, if I remember right, before that rally crash. He only had a sore ankle and a concussion. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, like it was.
I'm going to put this. I'm going to add this link to the video
Yeah.
vault ones in the show notes because you've
So
got to watch
scary.
this. It's I think it's the second replay where it shows it the long angle all the way down, and he comes in as you're looking at the screen. He'll be on the right hand side of the track. It's the left hand side of as it's coming towards us. And as he leaves the track, he gets airborne for a second. The front of the car is right up. He comes probably within not many feet of it probably being a lot worse because that concrete barrier that's got a right angle that he slams into, actually he doesn't really slam into it. If you see, the front right wheel gets completely torn off the side of the car, but the nose doesn't go into the concrete, so that spins him around sideways. Then he pirouettes like over about 3 or 4 times, and like you say, like just bits of car going absolutely everywhere. Oh my gosh, we'll put it there because you've got to watch it because I can't believe he walked away from that with a bit of a sore head and a bruised ankle. But talk about Phoenix from the Flames. After that, in absolute ruins and just obviously not finishing that race. 2008, he comes back and he wins it.
Amazing.
Now, it's apparently I did remember this. If you'd have asked me this before me looking into this, I would probably not have remembered it. But Hamilton just smashes into the back of Kimi Räikkönen at the end of the pit lane at a red light where they're waiting to relaunch. Because that was back in the day, I think, when they closed the pit lane for the safety car stuff, right? So if
Yep.
you went in and pitted, you had to wait at the red light before you could come back out again. And Hamilton's daydreaming and thinking about his shopping list, or I don't know what he's thinking about, but he just drives into the back of Kimi, into Kimi. So that's those two are basically out. And Kubica goes, "Oh, thanks very much. I'll have that." Just
Would you remember there's an interview, with Lewis as well afterwards, where he basically apologized. I apologized to Kimmy for ruining his race. It wasn't something I did intentionally. I mean, he took ownership of it. I thought that was pretty
yeah,
cool because he was a young kid at the time. I mean, he was a young man, just second year in F1, I want to say, in McLaren. So yeah, he just went right into the back of Kimmy's Ferrari.
yeah, and that was Kubica's first ever win, which was the first by a Polish driver and the first for BMW Sauber team. So a triple
Wow,
first for one win.
amazing.
Off we go. What else did we find? Oh, we had 2011, which I kind of remembered, but apparently it's in the record books as the longest Grand Prix on record at 4 hours, 4 minutes, and 39.537 seconds.
A 2 hour plus
So
rain delay? You know how
yeah,
much
and I
beer
did
we're going
again.
to
I
drink? You know how much beer we're
kind
going to
of.
drink during a 2 hour rain delay? I need to get a
So
second job.
So we had Hamilton's early collision. Hamilton and was out. Drive-through penalty for Button for speeding behind the safety car. Then there was a 2-hour rain delay, and Button also punted Alonso's Ferrari at turn 3 and got a puncture, which put him 21st and last with 30 laps to go. So we've just said that Button's going to win this race. So here we are, 30 laps back, 19 laps left. And this is where we all love drying tracks, right? 19 laps to go. Button just rolls the dice and goes, screw it. Wet tires for slicks. Like, jump the inters. We're just going to go wet to slicks. And his sixth final pit stop, he puts those slicks on and just starts absolutely rocketing it up the leaderboard. Then another safety car comes into play, which manages to get Button up to second with Vettel right in front of him. And I remember this. They were absolutely following. Button was following. Is he, isn't he going to get him? And then finally coming on turn 6 on the last lap. And got him, and that is I remember that race. I don't remember the length of it for some reason. History has taken that out of my brain, but I do remember Button chasing down Vettel
I,
on that
I
race. It
don't
was
remember this
awesome.
race at all for some reason. Like, I
Maybe it was
remember,
back in your twilight years
I guess,
when you
I
dropped out
remember
of F1.
the '07 race that we talked about in '08, but 11, I got nothing. Anyway, seriously, if the race is 4 hours and 4 minutes and 39.537 seconds, my ass will be asleep from sitting in that chair that long. I
I
gotta
just
go
hope it would be. I
walk
just hope it
around.
would be and 39.538 seconds. So at least we can
So with
say
the
we saw the
longest race
longest one
ever.
ever. Yeah, exactly.
In 14, Danny Rick takes his first win. Lewis had to retire with an MGUK failure. Nico was out there with an underpowered car. And Danny Rick apparently passed Checo for second place and used the momentum to push himself up towards Rosberg's rear end. And again, underpowered. He also had an MGUK failure. And Danny Rick made the pass on the second to last lap for the lead and secured his first ever F1 win. So a lot of firsts at
Yeah.
Canada. I
Well,
mean,
first at
what's the
Canada.
first we're going to see?
Oh, I don't know. First dirty side flag coming loose from the side of the track and wrapping itself around a car,
Oh
and
God,
we
could you
get taken to
imagine if
jail.
could you imagine if we tie those flags up and one of them ends up on the track? I feel so embarrassed. We'd have to stop the pod.
I think we might have to cancel the flag attachment to
Yeah,
Barrier's idea, just
yeah,
in case.
yeah, maybe. And then the
Um,
last thing, I already mentioned the 19 race, but Rob, talk about the Wall of Champions. I love this little piece of the track, this piece of history.
it's an innocuous looking corner, really, and if you play the F1 game, if you're anything like me, i.e., not very good at it, it's amazing how many times you actually do mess that last corner up and don't get the line right through it. And if you
All the
slow
time for
down,
me.
yeah, and if you slow down to take it okay, that's fine. You can easily miss the wall, but then you just sacrifice loads of lap time. It's a real deal breaker. So you come down the very last then back straight, heading towards the pit lane, and then there's a very tight right left chicane. And the perfect line is to basically come out of that corner with maximum pace and kiss the wall as you go by. You know, a nice little kind of like we saw in Monaco, I think, when they were tearing all the advertising hoarding down off the barriers. That's the ideal line through it. But it's been nicknamed the Wall of Champions, and it got that name back in '99 when it claimed 3 world champions in the same race: Damon Hill, Jacques Villeneuve, and Michael Schumacher all kissed the wall a little hard. And it's claimed a lot of people down the years. It's just a fabulous corner. Um, and I'm looking forward to the fact that we're going to be sat just a few hundred yards down from the Wall of Champions. Maybe we'll see somebody kiss the wall a little hard as well. So, because we're
Unbelievable.
going, by the way, Brian, in case you forgot.
Where are we going? So last year's race, Max, Fernando, Carlos took quali. It was a mix of rain, so we had some wet tires and inters. The podium was Max, Carlos, and Lewis. It was a great race to the end last year because Carlos was on fresher tires and only about a second or so behind Max, kind of pushing. Checo had an off. Now I'm trying to remember if it was in quali or the race, and he had to walk back through the woods
Oh
um,
yeah,
on the
yeah, that
side
was
of the
quite
track.
meme worthy.
That
Yeah, I
was
remember
so
that.
meme worthy. It's like racetrack, track through the woods, St. Lawrence Seaway, and like there's Checo just wandering back, literally through the woods. As we said, as I said, Lewis and Schumacher both, Michael, not Mick, both with 7 wins each in Canada. The only other active drivers to win at the Montreal GP, or Canadian GP in Montreal, I should say, are Max and Fernando, who have both only won once. The cool thing, as I've pointed out, sometimes you have to be near the front to win. They've had winners from every grid spot in the top 10 except ninth. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 have all
Thanks
won
for
the
clarifying that.
Canadian GP. And less than half, but barely, less than half the time has the pole sitter won, but barely. It's like 48 point something odd percent. So granted, those stats did not have Max in a Red Bull in today's environment in it, but there is hope. And so, in case you didn't hear, we're going to be there next week. And so, the pod next week won't come out till Monday. We've kind of debated how we're going to do this. You'll have to wait and see for the result, but Monday will be when it gets published, not Sunday, because we will be busy recording and probably drinking some beers and figuring out how to get around Montreal and do other things. But so I got to say one thing before we forget. Lynn, thank you for giving us this opportunity to buy the tickets from you and go so that you can keep them for years future. Thank you for this opportunity. We are so excited. I cannot explain it to you all how excited we are. So thank you to Lynn for the opportunity. And so Rob, keep going. I'm just so excited.
I mean, so the idea for next week, and God knows if we're going to pull this off correctly or not. So apologies in advance if next week is an absolute cluster of a show. But we're going to abandon the normal format in terms of trying to do a race review because we're going to be there and we've both got to travel back on the Monday. So we're not going to be able to kind of record a proper race review. So we're going to try to go for something along the lines of a Top Gear / Grand Tour kind of special where it's Bozo's on tour. Lots of kind of hopefully recordings of both of our journeys there, meeting up, seeing the track for the first time, grabbing any people sitting around us as we can for interviews. Uh, Whatever happens, it will be a show next week. There might be a lot of background noise. We're taking our mics so that we can plug into our phones and try to do some racetrack recording. So let's see how it goes. Like I say, could be an absolute cluster. But the plan is we are there for all 3 days. We've got a bit of a sprint on to try to make it for free practice 1. Which you know what, Brian, I've kind of come to peace with that because that's the kind of practice that I usually don't watch all of anyway, right? We try to get it and watch it if it can fit in around our day, but you know, if we miss a bit of it, we miss a bit of it. We're there all Friday afternoon for all the support events. I've just seen the schedule. I didn't realize so much happens at a race weekend outside of F1, so I can't
Oh, it's
wait to
going to be
see all those
great.
other support. Yeah, it's going to be great.
By the
We got the
time
Saturday.
FP2 happens, we'll have been at the track for a handful of hours, had a couple beers, a burger or two, or whatever. I don't know, something to eat, some fries, some poutine. Never know. We'll have had an opportunity to enjoy and settle in, and we will be. I mean, it'll be perfect. I don't care if it's raining or cold or hot. I don't care. I don't care.
Weather
I'm
forecast
excited
at the
to be
moment
there.
has got chance of a little potential chance of rain on Friday. We're looking like dry Saturday and Sunday. So
Perfect.
we are sat on Grandstand 1, so it looks like we're across from the pit lane. So we'll have a perfect view of the start of the race, and if we look to the left, we'll see the Wall of Champions up there. So yeah, I absolutely cannot wait. I absolutely cannot wait to both be there and then hopefully try to record something that maybe makes you guys feel like you're there with us, but probably not. So, but we'll give it our best. We'll see what we can pull out of the fire. Um, yeah, I'm counting down the sleeps now to go in this week. So we've got a couple of t-shirts. We've got some dirty side of the track t-shirts for us to wear, a couple of them. So obviously keep an eye on the TV, see if you can see us. Brian's got two huge flags for us to wave around as well with the dirty side logo on.
And we don't want to be annoying to
Um,
our neighbors, so we're going to be like, it's not going to be on all the time, but we will wave the flags as best we can when we
Well,
can.
I was kind of thinking what we need to do is this
Yeah.
we got to try to talk to Pit Lane Paul about his ability to get into the background of shots on TV, right? He's always walking past in the background. That's what we need to do. We won't annoy people that we're sat with the flags, but if we're walking around and we see some TV cameras interviewing people, we get in the background, get our flags
Yeah,
going, and
that sounds perfect.
see if we can get our flags on TV.
Going to be great. So everybody, check this space a week and a day from now, and we cannot wait. I'm so excited. This is, I got one last thing to say, and then I'll let you close it out, Rob. A couple years ago, when we started working together, or at least started talking F1 on Monday mornings, and we're in different parts of the country, and I didn't know you, and you didn't know me, and we realized we were both F1 fans, and then I had that Thanksgiving drunken idea to start a podcast, and it has built my appreciation for F1 from a fan to a fan who's a fanatic. And I really enjoy it in a good way. Like I really
Isn't that what fans short for anyway? But
no,
anyway, I
no,
like the
but
sentiment.
like
Keep
you
going.
know what I mean by it. It's like more than just I watch casually, and so I'm having so much fun. And the fact that Lynn listened to us and had this opportunity for us, and you and I realized we've never been for a million different reasons why, and we're able to make this happen in a cost-effective manner is humongous. Like I can't. This wouldn't have happened if we hadn't had those conversations. I'd still be in Ophir in terms of going to an F1 event if we hadn't started this. And for everybody, all the dirty siders like us listening, thank you for listening. And just know that as the two bozos who sit here talking into the mic, I'm appreciative of all of you because kind of gave us the energy and oomph to make this happen. So I'm pumped, man, and thankful and appreciative. And I'm going on a work trip. I'm not going to pay a lick of attention at the work trip this week. I'm just going to be thinking about Canada the whole time.
Yeah, and to I, we could probably carry on going and going and going about how excited we are. So let's draw a line under that. The only thing I'm going to say just before we kind of sign off for the week is I'm really hoping it comes true. Pit Lane Paul said it last week in the end of his review. He said he's looking forward to catching up with us two for a beer. And as stupid as this sounds, the three of us have never been in the same place at the same time. Brian, you've never even met Paul, right?
Nope,
You've only
never met him in
spoken to him
person.
over episodes that we've recorded.
Well,
So
I've talked to him on
in
WhatsApp and we made fun of you that time, but it's correct.
yeah, exactly. But I just think that would be so cool just to get the three of us together, share a pint. If we can record the Pit Lane Pool review in real time, face to face, that would be amazing. But it might not happen. But just it'll be great to just catch up with Paul and raise a beer to him because of all the stuff he's done for us. He's been brilliant, and I want to buy him a beer.
Yeah,
So
me too. Paul, your beers are free when you're with us, man.
yeah, but you can't stay with us all weekend because we haven't got that much money.
Oh, everyone have a great week, Rob. I'll see you soon, man, in real life.
Yes, baby.